in what I think is maybe a very shocking turn of events. It is already July. Can you believe? It's Nydia and welcome back to my channel. Can you guys believe that we are already halfway through the year of 2025? We're towards kind of like the end of July right now as I sit down to film this video. So I'm really kind of probably a little late on this, but it's time for a mid-year book freak out, I guess. 2025 has really been the year of rereading for me. I used to never be somebody who reread books a lot. I started out this year with so many plans to do so much reading. I had a whole list of a TBR, and then I decided to start grad school. And all my free time kind of went out the window because I am also working a full-time job. So I have not gotten to do as much reading as I would really like to, because sometimes I just come home and my brain, it just ain't functioning. Like I get to the point sometimes where I can literally not take in any new information. So that being said, I try really hard not to doom scroll on TikTok. I'm really bad about that. And it's really bad for my mental health because, you know, there's only so much like antidepressants and like things in the world to help when I am just feeding my brain with all the negativity in the world. And because of that, this year I have really been leaning into rereading books. Rereading my favorite all-time comfort reads, rereading stories that I know what the outcome is going to be. I'm sure that there's some psychologist out there that's going to talk about how if you are a really anxious individual and you have an anxiety disorder, how consuming media that you've already consumed before really helps to combat that because you find comfort in knowing instead of dealing with the unknowing. I'm sure somebody out there is gonna suggest that to me, and you know, I don't think that's necessarily wrong because when the world is floundering, I seek comfort in the pages of books. But you know, it's fine, and I am having a lot of fun doing it, so who cares? It's really funny to me the stories that I gravitate towards when life outside is really kind of crazy in the real world, because I started out the year rereading Night of the Witch by Sarah Rash and Beth Revis, this was one of my top reads of 2024. And it is about hunting witches. Does that sound familiar at all? Like things happening in the real world? This story deals a lot with religion and how religion, basically religious fanatics who infiltrate their way into government and try to push their own beliefs and things on people. The male protagonist in this book, his name is Odo, and he is a witch hunter. And I, as a Christian, every time I read this book, the battle that he has between who he knows his God to be and the narrative that this fanatical regime is trying to push about that God, and how he is trying to grapple with what he knows and what he knows is true and what these people in charge are trying to tell him is true. I took a lot, I related a lot to that because as a Christian, it's hard sometimes when you see these people claiming to be serving this loving God that I know that I serve, that I have read about in the Bible and have studied and have a relationship that I know I know him personally, and he is nothing like this narrative that certain political leaders and certain groups are trying to push, I relate to that a lot. And so I think I find a lot of comfort in this book because it's dual personality, it's dual point of views, and it's the witch hunter falling for the witch, and he's growing and he's learning, and he's coming to terms with what he believes to be true and what he has been taught to believe, which I relate to that struggle really hardly. And I love Fritzy, and I love the relationship in this book. I mean, you literally open with a village getting burned down, and I don't know, I think it's a really timely story for what we are going through right now, and I really do wish that more people would pick this story up. As far as I'm concerned, this is a standalone. It does have a sequel, but I'm scared to read it because I love this book so much, and I have heard some not great reviews about the sequel, and I don't want that to tarnish my feelings about this book, and I feel like this book kind of wraps up very neatly anyway. So yeah, I started my year with this. I just love this book, and I think I have some fan art in here. Yes, I do. Look at this. You can't look at that and be like, I don't want to read this book. It's very good. You should read it. So if you spend any time with me on my social media accounts anywhere, you are 100% gonna hear me talk about this book, which is A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. This is literally like my all-time favorite book of all time ever. I love this book. I love this story. I love the prose. I love everything about it. If you don't like it, there's the door. Just kidding. You are... Everybody is allowed to have their own opinions on books and things, and even if your opinions don't align with mine, that's okay. We can still be friends. I love every character in this story. I love the different plot lines. I love the prose, and when you describe this book, it doesn't sound like it should be as cozy as it is, because it's literally about this magical island with warring clans. And the little girls on the island, all the little children, are being kidnapped. Our lead male protagonist, Jack, he grew up on this island. He was an orphan. He wasn't an orphan. He was a bastard, I guess, is a better way to describe him, because he lived with his mom, but he didn't know who his dad was. And he went away to become a bard on the mainland. He studied music, and then all of a sudden the little girls are going missing, and he gets what he thinks is a letter from the Lord of his clan asking him to return, when really it's the Lord's daughter, Adria, who was his like childhood nemesis. They were at each other's throats when they were kids. He left the island when he was like 11 after they got into like kind of a scrapple, and she had invited him back the guise that it was her father, because she knew he wouldn't come back because of her. And then you follow Torin and Sidra, who are also just... Sidra is one of my... I relate to her so much. I love her and the character arc that she goes through. And in the meantime, you have all of this like warring clans and children getting kidnapped and these love stories happening. It's kind of set against the backdrop of like a Scottish Highland, and you're dealing with all the lore that comes with that. So this island is populated by the Fae, and they are meddling in human things. And it's just so good. I recommend this book all the time. It's perfect for summer. It's cozy with enough plot to keep it going, and the prose is just so good. Everybody loves Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This is what you need to pick up by Rebecca Ross. It is a duology. I love A River Enchanted. I think I might have loved Fire Endless more, which is saying a lot because I love this book. And so that was like my second book of the year, and it just hits every time. Okay, you guys, it hits every time. Okay, so the next book I want to talk about is my favorite book so far of 2025. This will probably become as a shock to nobody, but it is definitely The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. So let's get this settled first. I am at my core, I am a One Dark Window stan. I love that series. I have reread it twice. It is such a good duology. It's such an interesting fantasy world. So I was so excited for it, The Night and the Moth. And I was so excited for this to drop. It was one of my most anticipated reads of the year. And I loved it. I loved it. What can I say? I think you might find a theme in this video as I talk about my reading for this year, because we just, you know, I got off on my tangent about The Night and the Night of the Witch, which is about religion and deconstruction and all that jazz, because that is another major theme in The Night and the Moth, is again this idea of a kingdom, a country being founded with these religious values at its core, and then somebody who is so devout in those beliefs having to come to terms with what they have always been taught being wrong. And that is essentially the plot of this. So this follows Sybil. She is a diviner. So basically what she does is she gets drowned for a living because she has to be drowned in this magical spring, and then she dreams. And these dreams are prophetic. They are prophecies for whoever, you know, gave her their blood. There are different omens in this book. I believe there are 6, if I'm remembering off that top of my head. And they each have their own symbol, and whatever symbol she sees in her dream, whatever happens with it, is how she is able to divine the future of who she is prophesizing for. So she meets the new king of this kingdom. He's just a little baby. He is only 17 years old, and they all call him the Boy King because he is. He comes to have his future divined, and he brings along a knight whose name is Rory, and he is very much not a believer. And of course Sybil has devoted her life to this religion. That's all well, good, and fine until her other diviners that she has grown up with start to disappear. She is determined that she is going to figure out what happened to them. And so she enlists the help of Rory and the king and his knights to figure it out. And they go on kind of this secret mission that is just filled with all kinds of just action and adventure, right? This book also has one of my probably all-time new favorite like side characters, Bartholomew. He is a gargoyle, and I just love him. He is just, he's so funny, and he says all of these sayings and things, and he messes them up like purposefully. And I love that because I also love to just like say weird things, like weird sayings, and just mess them up just enough to see if people notice, because I think it's hilarious. So I loved Bartholomew because I said, same. He's very emotional, and he all the time will just be like, oh, so sad. Like, it just, I love him, and maybe I just relate to him. I don't know. But this was a great start to a new duology. I'm really excited to see what happens. Do be warned, it leaves off on quite the cliffhanger. Yeah, so anyway, this is a great book. I love this. This is probably going to end up being one of my top reads of 2025, so now I want to talk about my favorite sequel so far of this year, which is A Curse Carved in Bone by Danielle L. Jensen. This was a sequel to A Fate Inked in Blood. This is Vikings and Norse mythology, and it's gory, and there's a strong romance in it, and I just love it. Danielle L. Jensen is one of those authors that I go to, not necessarily because I want a ton of substance. That sounds bad. I go to her books because I know that they are going to be entertaining and they are going to be fun. And this book was no different. It also had like a crazy plot twist in it that was wild. And I just it was just so, it was so fun. I reread A Fate Inked in Blood right before I read this one because I wanted to have everything up and fresh in my mind because I loved A Fate Inked in Blood. So this is a romantasy that is inspired by Norse mythology, and it follows Freya, who has the blood of a goddess. And because of that, she has become known as the Shield Maiden. And before she was born, there was this prophecy about her that whoever controls the Shield Maiden is destined to unite all of the kingdoms of this continent, basically. And because of that, she finds herself, after killing her husband, which is a whole other thing, finds herself married to this king of basically her territory. She is kind of thrown into this war that she didn't know was coming, and she is the subject of because everybody wants to control the Shield Maiden, and she, in the midst of all of this, kind of has a thing for the king that she's married to's son, Bord. And it is filled with all of this like political politics and war planning, and it's very gory. So throughout the story, we see Freya kind of grow into her abilities, into her power, and she kind of has to make the decision of what does she believe about herself, and she kind of has to make this decision of, do I want to continue letting these men who don't have my best interest at heart push me to their own agendas, or do I want to control my fate for myself? So I think that about covers all of the books that I have read thus far into this year. I know it's not many, but I am really striving for a quantity over quality approach this year to my reading strategy. So now let's talk a little bit about the books that are releasing here in the next 6 months that I am super excited for. So I think one of my most anticipated reads of the second half of 2025 has to be Alix Harrow's The Everlasting. I believe that this is loosely based off of her short story that she released last year called The Six Deaths of the Saint, which I loved. It's like a 30-page read. If you haven't read it yet, you should. I haven't read an Alix Harrow book that I have not liked. I loved Starling House. Reading the plot of this, I am so excited. So the synopsis of this is a genre-defining quest about the Lady Knight whose legend built a nation, and the cowardly historian sent back through time to make sure she plays her part even if it breaks his heart. Like that, I don't know about y'all. I don't know about y'all, but that has Nydia written all over it. And I actually am so lucky enough to have an e-arc of the story sitting on my Kindle right now, and I cannot wait to read it. I am kind of holding it back because it doesn't release until October, and I don't want to get people too excited about a book that they're not going to be able to read for another 3 months. But I am really excited for that one. So another book by a favorite author of mine that I'm also really excited for is Adrienne Young's Fallen City. I have not read any of her YA books yet, but The Unmaking of June Farrow is one of my all-time favorite books. It was one of my top reads last year, and this is like her adult epic fantasy debut, and it's about a walled city that's in political turmoil. Yes, and a legionnaire that falls in love with the magistrate's daughter. Come on, that has me written all over it. And I have watched her on her Instagram kind of tease this book for the last few months and years, and I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be so good. There are so many more books that I'm so excited about for the rest of this year that I could really just yap on about. I mean, T. Kingfisher has a new book coming out. Sarah Rash has a new book coming out. I mean, we could just go on and on forever, but then this video would be like 3 hours long, and ain't nobody want to watch me talk that long, including myself. So I think we'll stop there with the new releases. So I think that is it for today on this little mid-year book freak out. If you have made it this far in this rambling of a video, drop a comment below and tell me what you guys are most excited to read for the rest of 2025. And I will talk to you soon. Bye!